Yeah, I would like to manifest today.
Some name was that I have read here, some master's thesis in right behind and pushing out. I think by the publication of Mason Dixon, I was reading them when the books came out. So, the final 49 this stories.
Lots of fish on ice. I did. I could. And I just. I was like, really, I'm not good.
Why am I doing well?
Yeah.
It's just a
That's the homework. All you have to do is your sword also.
Yeah.
So
this
what? I actually like that. Yeah, like on the Minds app, you say that you have to check. Well,
I have not.
yeah, I don't know.
So I and so I've got yes. So the published in 1963. It's his first novel. Now, of course, it's Thomas Pynchon's Why Should Anyone Care? Thomas Pynchon.
It's kind of like this for now.
Where it's 360s novels. This one, 63 B.
It was so good. She bought us books, like his books out there, like it was just. She
Probably should have won the Pulitzer Prize in 1972, but I can't remember the exact story. You can find it, or they didn't award it because they thought the book was gross. I don't know, but it definitely is and with it, but today to understand a little bit about what happened to be, you have to understand that whatever reasons he has decided to go as much as one can. Now, J.D. Salinger was he's got nothing on it. There hasn't even been a verified picture of Pynchon until maybe a couple of years ago. There were a few that were finally taken. He's never done an interview of any kind that I know of. He's made very, very few public statements about his work or about politics or about anything else. He pretty much wants as much as is possible to do. It is a this I want to hear and not by about the author because we know it's done. The novel is in the broadest sense of the terms. Mildly autobiographical. Is, I don't know that a single specific detail happened to mention. I don't know that a single character is based on himself or anyone he really is. There's no way to know that since he doesn't read interviews and his life is extraordinarily private or somewhat public. What I know is this book is 1956, and it involves some sailors who have been demobilized after two, possibly after Vietnam. It's not exactly clear when they served. I think more likely, not Vietnam, Korea. I think more likely they served in Korea. So they've been demobilized, and they're basically wandering around America, not really sure what they're doing. And this is mostly about Eddie Profane, the main character of that part of the book. But he does have his buddies most notoriously a guy named Big Booty. Along with them, there's another B, which is a guy named Herbert Stinson. Now, Herbert Stinson is a character who is searching for B. And it's okay, great, what's B? Well, that would be one of the questions that Stinsel would have. Now, it turns out that his father, Sidney Stinson, apparently was some spy. The period up to 1990, so prior to World War I. That's prior to the Treaty of Versailles. But anyway, prior to creation, Herbert Sidney Stinsel encountered something, and he wrote there's more to be. And so it appears that from Herbert Stinsel's point of view, his father was looking for B, and B is associated with the inanimate. It's associated with women, because women are associated with the inanimate. And this is something that I've only noticed so significantly this time reading is the extraordinary suffix. Now, I don't know that I was amused. I read it before, but I think I was so blown away by the linguistic pyrotechnics that I was like, that you come on to the masculinist this is, and it really is. They're extremely never really fully know why. Well, this is a good question. What is B? That was the primary thing. Because the way the novel works is you get mostly a chapter on profane and his group of people, who are one group of them is called the Whole Sick Crew. The Whole Sick Crew is a group of artists in well, would be still see but they're more like maybe something like Somerset. They want to be artists, but don't really have skill, don't have the dedication, don't really have the vision, don't have the connections. Whatever it is that makes an artist more than just someone who paints or someone who writes, whatever makes someone a voice inspiration type person. They probably don't have it, or at least they are not pursuing it because they don't have a vision or something. Perhaps society doesn't have any. It's also a possibility. So, if you're about profane, maybe sick group, and profane is he's a schnitter, and they lose a victim, and also brain, the kind of person who would never be the star of something, but here it is. And he is yo-yoing, which was what we said by yo-yoing. Yo-yoing is just aimless wandering back and forth, waiting for something to happen. It's basically passivity. And he's yo-yoing partially to Rachel Culver's. It's common, but he's basically yo-yoing between these two. He's kind of sort of in a relationship with Rachel. They all once be in a relationship with her, which both is by his own admission and the way he's described, but he's catch. He's overweight. He's out of shape. Basically, yo-yos. He doesn't have a job, not a consistent job, and that's happening. The other half involves Stinsel going to be strange
She was literally like a slut.
or something. He gets Stinsel gets very involved in becoming imaginative. Think of empathy taken to the nth degree, so that Stencil refers to himself as I. Stencil refers to himself as Stencil. And so he goes into vision. So one of these ideals, he takes on the persona of the person who he is having, or whatever you want to say. And his get very, very dark, very disturbing. They deal with racism, they deal with genocide, they deal with misogyny. But we'll get there. Okay, so Stencil and Herbert Stencil and Betty Profane do know each other. They both know each other through the so they what is one of them is in a series of drawing paintings of cheese dancers, which is absurd to ridicule pop art or pop art. Another one is what's he doing? But they're all basically doing nothing or doing something completely utterly useless. Just utterly useless. But at the same time, party. So there's a hedonism going on. And all right, so that's part of it. Two views. One is oftentimes referred to what is the hot house and what is the street? Well, the street is, in many cases, the street. And that's where profane finds most of the time. Because on the street, or in some cases, under the street, I would make it while. Okay, as you said, there's a very bizarre non-plot going on here. There's lots of plotting, but there's very little in the way of a plot. The profane story is he starts in Norfolk, Virginia. He meets Paola. He knew Paola before because it's a Patty Hod. A character shows up later. One of his old shipmates, and he's hanging out at the Navy bars, and they get together to go up to New York, where Paola goes and connects with Rachel and stays with her for a while, the whole Sid Crew area, and with another girl who becomes important later. Meanwhile, Profane, he goes and basically yo-yos on the subway. Just he stays with them for a while, kind of sort of in a platonic, non-sexual relationship with Josephina, who I believe was underage. I'm not sure. That's another thing. Profane goes after jailbait. It's called the book. Underage women sometimes it's a little disturbing, but later. Profane gets a job hunting alligators in the sewers of York, and at some point he chases an alligator and shoots it. It turns out that was probably Stencil in an alligator suit researching a strange priest who lived in the sewers and had some, in his mind, connection to the okay. So Profane comes across Josephine after a drunk one night who has been basically gang raped by the gang she had been connected with. And he just can't deal with it. Yes, he just takes off, gets out of it, and shows up at a employment agency. Happens where Rachel gets a job working with a company that makes these weird automatons. He has weird interactions with the automatons. And meanwhile, he hangs out with the whole Sid Crew some. Meets Stencil. He and Stencil go and rob a jewel set of baked teeth that I value. And this is a friend of a dentist that there's two employees. There's a dentist, and there is someone who does plastic surgery. And the plastic surgeon who does Esther's nose, but also gets her pregnant. And he won't have anything to do with that. And so the whole sick group raises $300 to send this to Cuba for an abortion. And Stencil and Profane steal these teeth. Remember, he is associated with being inanimate. And so what Stencil come to understand is that he was, this is something that was cybernetic into inanimate. And he believes that these teeth belong to V, who goes by various names in the novel. Victoria Megan, he's Beryl V, various names. Various names. Okay. So that's a Stencil story. I mean, the Profane story is after they steal the teeth, it's Profane. He's maybe looking to his money. He didn't really, he was so basically drunk, he didn't realize her actually. So he agrees to go with Stencil and Paola to Malta. And at Malta, the scaffold, the old boat used to be on that. Patty and I still, and Patty both make up. Bill had left him, and then everyone else leaves, and Betty Profane is left alone in Malta again, sort of drifting, useless, and runs into Brenda. And the book network bookend and running off into sunset with Brenda. Meanwhile, Esther gets pregnant, gets a job, and goes to get an abortion. Esther is Rachel's roommate. And it's basically Esther basically just be able to take care of herself. Apparently, all of these women sleep with different. And there are lots of other characters, or lots of Stencil, meanwhile, has these weird, like I said, these weird visions. And these visions are what lead him to go to Malta, because Malta is where his dad died and he stayed away. It's also where Paola's father housed him. And one of the things that Stencil looks at is the confessions of Fausto, which Paola had given him. And that leads him into a weird digression about Fausto's life. And he also does a connection with this dog. The guy who was in South Africa during the Civil War, or in 1922, for example. And so you have all these connections here. Okay, and remember Josephine is getting raped. That's one of them. It's very disturbing. Then in the monologue sense, just the language is terrible. The description of the Black Africans is terrible, and what happens to them is terrible. They're basically genocide is practiced against them by the Dutch and the English. If this sounds a little disturbed and off kilter, it definitely is. Mondog Sex also has a party, a hot house party. It's the hot house party, where he goes to bubbles, fashion, and
She also just.
It's basically everyone, basically big long orgy. It's just everybody starts to get decadent and over the top. Runs into a need and doing something. And also runs into a young woman. It's like, I don't know, 16 or something. And that dog is not necessarily because he's showing young girls, because it's just completely lost it. Complete decadence, complete, lack of morality, lack of purpose, lack of. And there's another section where we read about a very promising operatic career. Stages this stuff, there are hundreds of leading characters, and she manages to be on a pole. Supposed to be kills her on stage. Okay, so what is the point? So first of all, you can't tell. It's just an overload of different stuff. Okay. But you have basically two threads. You have the hot house thread and you have the street thread. And what are those things? Well, the hot house is maybe conservative. The hot house is maybe the elite. The hot house is, the decadence. That's where he comes in with the constant misogyny, racism, and what his stories. So that's not a very good path for mention. The hot house just demonstrates that, as at the very beginning of James Joyce's Ulysses says that history is a nightmare we're trying to wake up from. Okay, so this is the nightmare we're trying to wake up from. Okay, and so the other side is the street, which is this revolutionary, which is communism. It is the damned, it is the workers, it is the nobodies, not the named, the unnamed. The street is the same kinds of things happen in the street as the condoms. So, looking to the future isn't good either. And so the need comes together. Street comes together. And so what is in the middle? Well, the excluded evil, as it says in Crime Plot 49. Is it the present? Is it, the opportunity to do something that's not already by other forces? It's hard to say. Pynchon doesn't analyze this. My legs, the 20th century, but he doesn't do a very good job of telling us where to go. Because maybe he doesn't know. Maybe there is nowhere to go. Maybe these are the eternal choices. There is. We will see as we progress through how he develops because these are themes. I don't know that I covered a lot very well because there isn't really much of a plot as far as the plot is concerned. There are things that happen, they're plotting, but there is no character development necessarily. There's just survival. And in the end, be cool but care. It's a slogan that comes up on the be cool but care. So Pynchon does tend to suggest kind of you need to go on living. You need to care. But be cool. Whatever that means. We'll get there later. And also a certain amount of, as Gravity's Rainbow will tell us, Operation Paranoia is a good idea. All right.